Hello and welcome to the Just Another Castle podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and with me this week are...
Me, Eli, Michigan State student.
And...
Me, Unoclay, former Penn State student long time ago.
Oldie.
Old head in the hands. Go hit me blinds.
You're older than Flea, and Flea is old. No.
Dude, old, so old that I remember Nintendo when they made things other than video games. So what's up with that?
He remembers the Ultra Hand.
And the Ultra Hand? I got like 3 of them in my closet, bro.
Good stuff.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah, so we'll usually start off the podcast with what we've been playing. I haven't been playing really much of anything. I don't think Unoclay's really played a lot much besides, the usual Splatoon and Smash that we usually play. And I was kicking his butt sometimes.
Yeah. You're kicking my butt at some Smash, but boy, you dragged down my ranking in Splatoon last night.
Blame it all on me, why don't you?
Just kidding.
Yeah, so Eli, have you been up to much?
I've played a little bit more Kirby. I really haven't really had time this last week. I'm trying to remember if I played anything else. Oh, I've played through like another 2 dungeons of Zelda. I think I'm 5 dungeons through. Mm-hmm. So
Twilight Princess.
But yeah, Twilight Princess. I'm 5 dungeons through. So I've been playing through that. Still looks like not great, but it's okay.
I'm struggling.
The game itself is good, but it's a lot easier than a lot of Zelda games I'm used to.
Mm-hmm. Give me a reason to keep going. I'm about to go into the Zora Temple, and I just can't find the energy to keep
I don't know. It's more... Honestly, the Zora Temple is not good.
Are any Zora Temples ever good, to be honest?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's like the most revered... No, that's the wrong word I'm using.
Yeah.
Hated. Whatever the hated version of revered is.
Instead of revered, yeah, totally.
Yeah, the water dungeons are always like the worst. But I don't know when the snow dungeon is, but that was pretty cool. You're basically up in the mountain. I kind of don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah.
But
snow dungeon eventually. All right. So
yeah, there's a cool dungeon that takes place in a house. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, I did that dungeon. It was cool.
All right. I haven't given up fully yet, but boy, it's getting harder and harder to drag my butt back to it. I'm like, Twilight Princess or anything else, and I'm like, anything else every time, So.
I mean, the game, honestly, it's not my favorite Zelda game. I know a lot of people really liked it. It's probably not, like, near the top of the rankings for me, which I thought I would like it more than I do. But I still enjoy playing through it. I don't know, I wish they didn't go for the realistic style. Like, it didn't need it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't hold up in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. If only they did a proper remake. But we know they had to push that out quickly, so... So I guess we'll just get into news, which is not really actually news. It's basically everything is a rumor this week. Because no actual news has come out, and this is all we've been getting lately. So actually, there is one real thing that happened. Well, I guess 2 technically, but one of them was Capcom is making surveys for Japanese players if they want Mega Man 11 or just more collections, and it's just like, Capcom, how many times have we told you, just make a gosh dang new Mega Man series? That's all. Just do it. Why are you waiting so long?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. On that, because it's like Mega Man 9 and 10 I thought did rather well. Like, why what's the question? Make Mega Man 11. We're in.
I think 9 did well and 10 didn't do as well.
Sure.
But still, they were saying a couple of years ago they had like ideas of rebooting the series because they had too many spin-off franchises and they wanted to make like one specific series that they could really like stick to. Because it was like every couple of years, it's like, here's the classic, and here's X, and here's Star Force, and Battle Network, and blah, 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 and kept changing. So I remember them saying they wanted to stick to one thing, but then they haven't really done much besides the canceled, like, what was it? I think it was made by Armature or something, but the, like, canceled Mega Man demo that looked realistic and ugly. and he like ripped guns off of people or other robots, which is kind of cool. But like it was like canceled footage, and it looked kind of bad. It was from like 2010 or something. But I hope they come back to that. They're making a movie, so I'm sure they're gonna have a game to go along with it, rather than stupid Kleenex boxes and all this other merchandise crap.
So they're making a. I don't think I knew that they're making a Mega Man movie. Is it live action?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I heard much about this. I know that there's been those fan movies over the years that are varying quality and stuff like that. But that's interesting. Well,
I think it's supposed to come out.
It's another franchise for Hollywood to ruin. So
yeah.
My cynicism showing through, but it's true.
Well,
what
I mean, like most video game adaptation movies haven't done well. Well, I mean, technically Resident Evil has done successful, but as far as being true to the games or anything, like, I don't think anyone's
that don't make them good. That don't make them good.
No, not at all.
Mortal Kombat! Sorry.
But yeah, that's pretty much the only real story. So now onto basically everything else from today is going to be an NX rumor. So one of the things,
I heard the NX is going to drive me to work. Is that true? I read that.
I think it's viable. I
think I read it from like what they said it was a reputable, credible source.
Will it have third-party support for it? Because as long as they have third-party support for the driving mechanic, I'm in. So.
I think it's more likely to be able to drive me to work than to get third-party games.
I think I heard there's a foot massager in it, maybe, and it has a Sea-Doo and.
Yeah. I heard that they're really capitalizing on the Project Cafe functionality this time. It's actually going to brew your coffee. Like last time they
it was just for show. This time they're going whole hog with it.
Yeah.
Eli's going to beat people.
Oh my gosh, there was a rumor that came out today, and I read it, and I'm like, I'm not even going to put it in, because it was like 3 days after this other fake rumor we'll get into, and I'm like, this just seems like it's
so many. Okay, at this point, don't take anything to heart.
No. So
and like, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into the fake and then go to that. But before that, I want to start with something that was actually real, or at least Nintendo made a statement about it. So there's one thing that has that the other things don't. So a rumor from Nikkei this week said that the Wii U was going to end production at the end of 2016. And some people are like, whatever, rumors are rumors, everything is a rumor, blah, blah, blah. But Nikkei is probably the most reputable source for rumors.
It's like the Wall Street Journal equivalent. Like, if you hear something in the Wall Street Journal, you'd think it's true.
Yeah. And to give people reference, they, well, not predicted, but they announced the 3DS XL was a real thing that was happening. Nintendo was denying it. I forget their actual wording, but they basically denied it.
They're not 100% though, because they had another rumor that the NX was Android based, and that, true. Well, we don't know whether that's true or not, but Nintendo denied that. But to be fair, Nintendo also denied the 3DS XL. So
I just want to say, like, it's not like they throw all these rumors and they're in 100% garbage. Like, they do have realistic stuff, like the XL. Nintendo denied it, and like a week later it was announced. So, like, companies do have a reason to lie because, you know, they want to control their marketing. But regardless, they said that the Wii U was ending production, and then Nintendo came out later, and some people, well, I'll just read what they said. Nintendo was saying the statement didn't come from us, and that they plan to continue Wii U production during the next fiscal year and beyond. So Nikkei said the end of 2016, which is December 2016. The end of Nintendo's fiscal year is March 2017, which isn't that much farther ahead, and beyond could literally be as vague as they want it to be. Like, it could be a month as far as they're concerned with beyond. So I don't think Nikkei is that far off to say they're off base, and I think people who are saying, oh, well, Nintendo came out and said it's fake, so blah, 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 they're entirely true. It's like, well, they're a company and they want to protect their image, so like they do have a reason to lie, because if they just came out and said, oh yeah, we're stopping production, like no one's going to buy a Wii U now for sure, because
and you have to look at what's at stake on either end, because if the Wall Street Journal is lying, then their credibility takes a dip, or Nikkei in this case.
Mm-hmm.
If Nintendo lies, it's just hiding its secrets.
Yeah.
So, who's got more to lose in lying here?
Well, the thing is, Nintendo has to respond, because if they don't respond and let people think the rumor is true, it's going to hurt them. And if
denial,
they say it's true, then it's going to hurt them. So they basically have to say, no, it's fake. But some other things to back it up are some accessories are already not being produced, which kind of leads possibly to its credibility. And their statement doesn't technically deny that it's entirely false. They're just like, it didn't come from us, we plan to support it. It's like, well, doesn't mean things can't change, And there was also a couple of weeks ago, some Japanese stores, or maybe it was just one, was saying they had a Wii U shortage, and I think that they weren't going to get any more Wii U's in. So that could have been Nintendo, testing the waters, cutting off supply, because they realized, hey, this thing isn't selling. There's so many units in store still. We could stop production, and there would still be Wii U's out there to sell for people, which, seems
This
fine.
isn't the first time I've heard about it, and it was more than one retailer. It's several retailers who have actually not gotten supplies.
Yeah, so
I mean, when your system is selling 4,000 units a week, if you have 50,000 of them laying around in Japan in retail, then that's a year's worth of sales.
Yeah.
What do they have to worry about? So
yeah, I mean, they've tried literally everything at this point. They've had a new IP with Splatoon. They've had Mario Maker, which is also its own crazy thing. They've had all of their major entries: Mario, Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart, the ones that sell the most units, and it still didn't really push the console. So at this point, nothing's gonna push it, not even Zelda. So I don't really blame them for cutting production, because there's plenty out there. There's no point in them making more when we know it's not gonna push those units. It'd just be wasted money on their part.
Yeah, let me correct my math. You need 200,000 if you're selling 4,000 a week to last a year, not 50,000. I don't need commenters screaming about how I can't do math.
No problem. So yeah, that was the only real thing this week Nintendo responded to. But the other crazy thing that happened this week, so it was a month ago or so that there was an NX controller leak, and it was a white controller. It looked like the classic controller for the Wii, where it's basically an oval, but it had no buttons in it. It had a screen and scrollable shoulder buttons and whatnot. And I thought it looked kind of fake, because the screen looks like someone just took a sticker and pasted it right on something, because there were problems with the screen. It just looked kind of fake. And Omni from Smashified pointed out there weren't any scan lines or anything. If you take a picture of a screen, you'll usually see pixels and whatnot, but that wasn't on there, so that kind of showed how fake it was. And then another one came out recently that actually did look like a real physical product. And people went crazy with it so far as looking at the reflection on the product to see trees, and then find out where in the world that development kit could have come from. And it was kind of insane that they went into that much detail. But thankfully, the leakers came out and showed that both of the controllers were fake, and it was just they're trolling around. The first one that was white was a 3D model, and the black one was actually a 3D, I forget, not printout, what do you call it?
3D printing?
Yeah, they did a 3D model printout that's an
Someone
actual
called
console.
that. Someone I talked to thought it was 3D printed. I forgot who it was. Oh.
I think Jason from Nintendo Enthusiast might have said it, or it was Sean.
Well, yep.
I was listening to them.
It was Jason. He mentioned that.
Yeah, I figured that would have been going too far, because I'm like, well, how's someone gonna find a place to make plastic and print this out, and it's gonna cost all this money? And I'm like, the guy goes through the video and he's like, no, I just sanded it and spray painted it with different types of acrylic paints. I'm like, crap, he really got me, because it looked like a physical product, and technically it was physical, but just the detail was insane on it. So pretty much from here on out, don't trust anything, because if someone can make a physical item and it's fake, then everything else can be fake. Like, obviously text could always be fake anyway, but if someone's willing to go that far, it's like, okay, everything's off the table. Just wait until Nintendo has a Direct or E3 or whatever. But yeah, the way they showed off, he revealed it with like someone crying at the beginning and then at the end crying in relief. It was just hilarious. You can check out their videos there. But I'm thinking, I wrote like some posts going into detail of like how this controller just shows problems of Nintendo and it ends up being fake. And I'm like, well, that discussion's pointless now. We'll just have to wait until they finally give us news. I hope it's soon.
Although,
Go on.
although, does that lead you to another rumor? Do you have the Reddit thread?
No.
Okay, there was another guy who after that came out, or like before it was revealed that it was fake, went on Reddit and said, I'm a developer at a AAA studio working on a NX game. This thing's fake. And then he drew up mock-ups of what the controller looked like, and it looked like a gamepad, pretty much. And he said, and he answered questions and stuff, and I don't believe this guy, but it got uploaded and stuff, and I sent him a message by PM, and I said, hey, can you confirm with me that you actually work for a AAA developer in some way? Let me know, and we'll keep your identity a secret, but we'll at least like lend some credibility to what you've been posting. And he's like, well, what sort of identification do you need? And I'm like, well, literally anything. Send me like an employee ID or like even like an E3 badge, so I know that you're part of the industry. Never got back to me after that. So
of course. I'm that's the one
sure
that was posted
as well.
That's the one that was posted today. You're talking about, right?
It wasn't today. It was a few days ago.
Okay. I just saw it pop up on my Nintendo News today. He was saying like it's slightly more powerful than the PS4 and has ARM architecture.
Yeah. I mean, that's from a few days ago. They're reporting it late, but when we didn't report it, we didn't even touch it. We're now super careful with what rumors we're posting because, like, I'm sorry, if you're a random guy on Reddit saying you have access to the developer kit, like, give me a break. At least send me something to say, confirm that you are somewhat related to the industry. It's not that hard to get an E3 badge if you're a developer.
Yeah. I didn't even put that piece in here because I saw it today and I'm like, this looks like this guy's just trying to get popularity off of the back of the other leaks. Just like, oh look, it's not the thing that the other guys faked it was. I have the real news. It's like, yeah, I don't really believe you. So, yeah, I don't think that's realistic. So a member of NeoGAF who leaked Pokemon Black and White 2 says we'll get NX info before E3. That's interesting because no one ever would have thought like, oh, we're gonna get a sequel to a Pokemon game, and then he comes out, he's like, no, this crazy thing.
Oh come on, everyone thought we were gonna get a sequel to a Pokemon game.
Well, I mean, not like a direct sequel, like Black and White 2.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, obviously a new generation, but not like here's Pokemon Red 2, like that kind of thing. So that's kind of neat. So I guess he has some credibility there.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I would say that that's completely credible based on what they've been doing with their directs lately. I mean, even if they do a stage show, Nintendo loves controlling the conversation on their own terms and not having to do it live and not necessarily having to have their whole like Japanese speaking team try to go on a stage with a translator because it's awkward. So, that makes sense. They're going to, if they have some tech to show, they might start dropping information ahead of time, maybe like 2 weeks. We should do a little private poll here and set it up for next week and get our bets in because I'd have to think about the calendar of it, but I'd say like a week before E3 is the hot zone, where they'll do a little presentation and then into the live, whatever they're going to do at the actual show. So,
yeah. Do you guys think that they could do a press conference again if they're going to release it, if they're going to reveal it? Because that seems like a news conference worthy event or a press conference.
It does, but I don't know. So in when Nintendo released their statement for the Wii U ending production, they also said something about, it was translated through Google, so I might have gotten this wrong, but it said something along the lines of on April 27th they'll announce how many units they plan to sell of the Wii U and NX. So there might be like some sort of news on the NX on April 27th, and that's what this guy was also believing. And this guy's statement came before the Wii U production ending came, so it's not like he just piggybacked off of something else. So what I'm thinking is they have a direct of some sort, either a month or sometime before E3, so that when E3 comes around, there's kiosks already set up, so no one can really like leak the game. Like I think Mario Maker was leaked before, so that when people go into E3, it's not like, oh, someone took a picture of the NX, here it is, before they actually announce it, and kind of ruin their plans that way. They might just go a month before and be like, here's what it is, and you'll see games at E3, and that's pretty much it. I would love them to do an actual stage conference, but I don't really know anymore. I mean, how many years has it been without a stage? Like since 2012, yeah. I think.
It's really tough to call. I would say we're going to have to wait and see on that one. I'd love to speculate, but it could go either way so easily that, hey, it's Nintendo.
I've always been a strong proponent of having an actual press conference. I've talked about it on this press conference, on this podcast before. Mm-hmm. So I hope they go that route. It's when you get all the media attention, and the same people that were going to watch the direct are still going to watch the press conference. They don't lose anything out from that experience, yeah. I believe anyway. But at least you've got the mainstream media there. CNN would cover that. Nintendo announces new console, right, or whatever it is. I think that there's.
Oh, go on.
I just think that there's a benefit to having an actual place where the press has to show up to cover this event, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure if someone's going to announce a new console, they're going to, like, cover it anyway, just because it's, like, giant news that'll still get them attention.
Yeah, but it's more about having people on site and, like, what sort of footage they're going to show on CNN, like, if they're actually have a report on it, right? Yeah. Well, if you're at a press conference, you can actually get video of the press conference and show that off, but what are you going to do, grab a section of the direct? I mean, maybe, but they usually don't like to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree that they should have one. I just don't know whether they will or not at this point. It would be great if they did, and have a stinking Zelda demo. So yeah, hopefully. I don't know. I feel like they have to have something announced before E3. They might just wait so that people keep the speculation going all the way up into E3 and really get the hype going, because the fakes got the hype going, like everyone's talking about Nintendo. So they might just be like, oh, well, people are still talking about us. Maybe we'll just wait until, like Elia or Unoclay said, like a week before E3, so that it's so close to E3 that it's not like, oh, they showed us the NX, oh, and it's not for E3's not for another month or two. And now I'm getting bored or something. Like the excitement is still on track. Like there's no hiccups in between. But yeah. So apparently Foxconn is ramping up NX production in the late half of 2016. So during apparently this is an investor speculating, but there's also an investors meeting and whatnot that they're talking about.
That's the company that uses child labor, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Unfortunately. Well, I don't know the details, but
I think they stopped actually after there was a scandal. Once they found out that they were using child labor, I think they stopped.
There's probably still garbage going on at there, I think. Like employees not being paid enough or whatever. But apparently Foxconn's manufacturing the console, and supposedly they're ramping up NX and iPhone 7 development in the second half this year, which means it'll be coming out this year. And that also goes in with, the Wii U ending production 2016, and obviously they're not going to stop production of a console and then not have something else to fill in the void for it. Yeah, I think the writing is on the wall for Wii or NX coming out this year. I think it'd be silly to believe it's coming any later. Like, they really can't wait any longer.
Let me just say that I called this when I wrote my article. Like, last year I called it, and everyone thought I was crazy. No, Eli. It's going to be until 2017. Just wait. You're crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
I still say that we're getting half of it this year, half of it next year. The console's
going to be split in half, and then you gotta put it together.
It's an IKEA
10%.
console.
We're getting the 3DS remake this year, and then the console like early the following year or something like that to keep the price down so that you can buy both parts of it separate.
Now, what they're probably going to do is they're going to send you the top half of a 3DS.
Here, you got the screen with nothing on it.
And in the controller of the NX, and then next year you get the console version of the NX and the bottom half of the 3DS or the new DS.
Oh gosh, I think it'd be insane if they put the portable first. I mean, the console seems like it would be the thing they have to get selling first, especially because it's always like console.
Yeah, I think
November.
the 3DS still has some life in it. Like the 3DS isn't the one that's selling 4,000 units a week in Japan.
Yeah.
Like,
there's still games coming out for it. So apparently Sakamoto is working with Retro on a new IP. This comes from Liam Robertson from Unseen 64 and Nintendo Life, who's shown off a lot of other, not rumors. He's leaked a lot of other stuff before. A lot of
he's actually a reputable source.
Yeah, he is for sure. And he was talking with some developers at Retro Studios and Nintendo, who he's really close with, if you listen to any of his videos. And one of his sources was tipping him off saying, that was another article. But long story short, the guy in charge of Federation Force is apparently no longer overseeing Retro Studios, and the guy replacing him is Yoshio Sakamoto, which is Metroid's creator. But the thing is, Sakamoto wants to work on new things, and Retro want to be more independent, so they probably want to work on new things themselves. So it seems like they're going to be working on something working on a new IP rather than Metroid. So are you guys... I know Eli is 50-50 kind of on Metroid, and Unoclay is more excited for Metroid, but would you guys rather see a Metroid first or a new IP from them?
New IP. I don't care about Metroid. I mean, I know other people would say otherwise, but Metroid never sells, too. That's the other thing. Like, not only do I want something new because Retro makes good Donkey Kong games, and they could probably make something else that's good, but it's also the fact that, people want Metroid, but it comes out and always sells like 1 million or 1.5 million units, and other stuff will actually sell.
Yeah.
So.
Unoclay, you haven't talked to
Yeah,
much
me personally, it's a tough call because it's like let's make a deal, like blind game show kind of question. Like, do I want the thing that I know or the secret surprise behind door number one? And if I don't want Retro to just make another side scroller, a la Donkey Kong Country, because I think they make really excellent ones, but the market is littered with great side scrolling, platformers these days.
Well, it doesn't have to be a side-scroller.
Right. Well, if they were going to do something maybe a little more out of their comfort zone with some imagination and unique flavors and ideas in it, you could get my ear depending on what that was going to be, to put off another Metroid. I'm not the person that's in the camp, mind you, that wants another Metroid Prime. I want a new Metroid, and I see the problem with how do they make Metroid fresh again. It's getting into the F-Zero trap of like, what do you do with it? People hated Other M. I didn't, I think the haters are pretty loud. I think there's enough of a contingent of people that actually thought Other M was a reasonably good game. I
actually beat Other M. I thought
it's good. And you liked it? And you said you're not even a Metroid fan.
But yeah. There hasn't really been a Metro game I played that I didn't think was meh. So
okay, right, yeah. That's a little bit. It's interesting that like at least you gave it the same ranking of meh as the other Metroids you've played. Given its hatred. But no, I've talked. It's a kind of an old topic. We don't need to beat that horse of whether Other M was good or bad. Everyone knows the flaws. Everyone knows that maybe the haters were a little loud. And it was actually not the worst game on earth. Underneath the plot, all that stuff. I liked it personally. I was much more positive on it than other people. I thought it was a fun game, and it's a real shame because the loud critical reaction toward it definitely probably put a little bit of a damper on the chances that we're going to see a unique new Metroid, which makes me a little sad because I enjoyed it. I know it was a little wonky flipping the controller sideways and forwards and back and forth, but it was interesting. So,
hey Clay. So,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned making Metroid great again.
Mm-hmm. Or,
you know who should hire to do that
job? Ridley's hands are tiny, bro. Did you ever look at his tiny dragon hands? He is not a well hung dragon monster enemy guy. Yeah, I hear you. We're gonna make Metroid great again. We need hats. Make Metroid great again. Oh my gosh. But no, I don't know. Matt, to your question, it's tough. It's like, hey, what's behind the mystery door? A great studio like that, I'll like to say, I trust you. If you got a good idea, just maybe I've got Yoshi's Woolly World here. I got my Donkey Kong Country platformer game here by you guys. I don't know. I need to see more platformers from you. I'd like to see something new. And if that could be a Metroid or not, then that's cool. So.
All right. Well, it looks like Eli has to dip out early this week.
Yeah.
So.
Apparently in university we have these things called midterms, and they're problematic. I wish I could just podcast away instead, but.
I think he'd be more of a nerd if he stayed on the podcast.
Hard to say.
All right, y'all have a great day.
All right, so Eli's gone. We can talk dirty about him. Oh, wait.
That nerd. See you later, nerd. Go get good grades. Why don't you? Jeez.
I just wanted to add something to the Metroid thing. So yeah, I'm not really crazy about Metroid, as people might know. So I'm up more for something new, but I'm also up for something new from them just because they have a really good pedigree behind them. Pretty much every game they've made is like great or amazing. So I think they've proven themselves worthy enough to actually be able to develop their own game. And they're basically like Nintendo's version of Rare now. So like the great thing about Rare was that they did do some new games. So, let them free and do some stuff. Because I mean, Splatoon was successful and that was Nintendo made. So let your basically second arm of your studio have free reins.
Yeah, I agree. And don't hold things back. Let's get ideas out there, people. Let's get some games running. Yeah. I deeply respect the quality control Nintendo exacts on everything. It's why I'm still a fan after all these years. But it's hey, we need some games, guys, and I'm sure they're in full gear right now for something for NX. At this point.
Yeah, I think they have to have. I'm thinking they might have something like a teaser when they show off the NX, because the last time we heard from Retro Studios was back with Tropical Freeze, which I think came out in 2013 or 2014, so a couple of years ago, and in between then they've always been hiring for more people, so they were probably working on maybe something for Wii U and had to switch it over, or it seems like they've been working on something. But one last point about Metroid is you were saying the outcry of Other M might lead to the next Metroid Prime game being a little bit more stagnant, and I don't think that's necessarily the case, because when someone asked, I forget his name, but one of the guys in charge of Metroid, like, oh, would we ever see a Metroid on Wii U or what happened? And he was like, well, if we started that, it would end up on NX. And he liked the idea of having the hunters from Metroid Prime Hunters in the next Metroid, in like Metroid Prime 4. And I think that would be really cool. So it sounds like the person does want to introduce like new concepts and whatnot.
Right.
Like a sequel sort of to Federation Force, or building on the story of that, which is funny because I think Federation Force would have been better if it had hunters instead of just faceless mech suits, but
that's
another story.
Yeah, that topic again has been beaten to death too, with these extra Metroid concepts, that aren't core. So yeah, we can probably leave that alone, and I'll stand by and wait to see what else they got. So.
Yeah. So this other quick rumor is apparently comes from Gino, which has some legitimate and some not so great rumors or leaks or whatever you want to call them, sources. But he's saying that Luigi's Mansion 3 is going to be coming for NX, and that the graphics are going to look like a living cartoon, like the CG from Dark Moon's commercials. And I went back, and the commercials are on like 480p on like Nintendo's channel, so they're not really great, but I can see what they're going for, and if it looked like that would be great. I think Dark Moon did well, So I wouldn't be surprised if they had a new one. It would be kind of funny if they're like, hey...
It was super fun. Like, yeah, how about it, right?
Yeah, I really liked Luigi's Mansion, both of them, so I'd be up for that.
Neat. I hadn't heard that. That's interesting. But it would make sense because Nintendo loves to have patterns. And since Luigi's Mansion was a launch title for GameCube, that, they would like see that as some kind of heritage, to like give Luigi a shot to lead the system out the gate again, along with hopefully a stack of other titles, whatever it is. If that was true, and if it was in development for a while now, I would want to say, I'd want to read into it myself, which is definitely biased, and say, well, since they might be looking at that game as more of a portable title, it might tie into my argument that NX might launch in stages with the portable phase coming first, that if that game's ready to roll. And then we all know about the Pikmin 4 rumor, which is pretty much unrelated to what you're saying, but Pikmin 4 was basically done. And I've always wondered why.
That's not even a rumor, that's right from
Right, that's
Miyamoto.
right from the source.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I've always wondered why Pikmin hasn't come to a portable system, because it feels like it's a game you could do on a portable, especially with like its stylus control type thing, like on the 3DS.
Well, Miyamoto did say they tried it out, I think, on the 3DS, and it just wasn't working, and I can see why.
It's tough.
I just don't think it's the staggered screen and whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah, and the sprites are tiny, the Pikmin are quite literally tiny, So I hear you. It's something I've always thought about, that it's like, it's such a cool game in strategy, it's a strategy game, and if you could make that work, get around that limitation, it would be perfect for a handheld to carry around with you, So
well, I mean, like even Hyrule Warriors Legends isn't running that great on the original 3DS, so Pikmin definitely wouldn't work. They'd basically have to cut it down so much they might as well not even make it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, although I wonder if it's the same problem when you have like a limit on the Pikmin is like 100 or something like that versus, where I've heard the Hyrule Legends things, it's just like endless spamming, endless like character action, that would overload a processor. But I hear exactly what you're getting at.
Yeah, well, it's just a problem of too many things on screen. I mean, the AI in Hyrule Warriors, you can tell, is fairly stupid. So for like a Pikmin game to have like somewhat smart AI in it, and you have like 100 Pikmin or what, I think if they were to do a Pikmin...
Wait, are you trying to argue that the Pikmin are smart? Because last thing I saw, throwing them in like a lake and they were drowning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm going to go with your argument. The Pikmin are the most intelligent creatures I've run into since they get enslaved.
I meant the Pikmin like enemies are smarter. Gotcha. But I think the only way a Pikmin game would work on 3DS is if they radically changed how the game worked. Like it would have to be a level by level thing, like a mission-based sort of system, basically made for portable play and a smaller experience.
Yes, it would 100% have to be that. It could not be like the giant world with like enemies like kind of running around on their own and things like that. Yeah, you'd have to have a more like narrowly defined Pikmin experience, which is totally fine. If they could try that sometime, and Nintendo, you're listening to our humble little podcast here, I think there's some meat on that, and I'm not a kind of guy who's necessarily wants to see you shrink your big ideas into like a narrower box, like just for the sake of a handheld. But there's something in that you could have like dungeon based challenges with Pikmin, where it doesn't require you to be able to carry an army of 50 or plus Pikmin every round, and the enemies are more scene by scene rather than open world type environments. But hey, just something to think about. Maybe someday we'll see.
And they have had that before in Pikmin 2. There were caves, so you would go underground, and it was like you have this small area, and you have to find the exit, and you also can kill enemies on your way to get more money and things like that. So there's ways of doing it.
Yeah, that was the Pikmin, so we could all like be happy if it was just like your standard dungeon crawler where the processor doesn't have to load a ton at once. It loads each area or each floor, like rather than being out on the field, with giant birds and bugs and everything like that, like attacking you all the time. But hey, Pikmin, we love it.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem, though, is probably not being able to see them that well, just on the screen size. But moving along, so You were talking about having more games on NX, and we might get that with Activision. So there's rumor that a bunch of Activision games should be coming. It comes from Dual Pixels, who's had both correct and incorrect rumors before. I actually went one of their Nintendo E3 rumors a couple of years ago. I think it was 2012 or 2013. That was pretty fun. They've gotten stuff right before and wrong, which is pretty much every place. But regardless, they say that the next Call of Duty game is going to be Call of Duty Bloodlines coming to NX, that Nintendo is pushing Activision. Sorry, I was just getting my story right. So Nintendo is pushing Activision hard to get a beta access to Destiny's sequel called Beyond Destiny, which, whatever. And that Activision in 2017 is going to team up with Platinum Games to work on the first Spider-Man Marvel Cinematic Universe game, so tied to the movies. And apparently it's going to be called Spider-Man the First Avenger, which doesn't make sense because Captain America was called the First Avenger in the movies. So that doesn't really make sense, but maybe it's a new series of games or something. But regardless, at the very least, this seems likely to happen. Like Call of Duty, they get ported to basically everything. Destiny, I could see going either way. Activision working with Platinum to make a Spider-Man game, that actually seems kind of likely. So Activision has actually made a bunch of games with Platinum. They've made the core game, they made the Transformers, and now they're making the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. So clearly they like them quite a bit because they're continuing to work with them.
Right.
And Activision has the license to Spider-Man, which they've really only... So they used to make Spider-Man games that weren't related to movies, and eventually they ditched that because I think they weren't selling... They got to a point where they weren't selling all that well, so they just stuck to the movies. And obviously we haven't had movies in a couple of years, so they haven't really bothered with it. And the previous studio that they did work with to make Spider-Man games, Beanox, I don't think they're really interested in them anymore with making the games because they haven't really worked with them much. And they like Platinum, so it makes sense that they're going with them. Plus, Platinum's known for their action games, and Spider-Man is an action game, so that works out pretty well. It seems pretty likely. So I hope it's not fake, because I really like Spider-Man, and I'd love to see a new game based on the movies, or just a game in general.
I'd be happy for you. These aren't my primary interests. I tend to pretty much ignore movie-based or kind of cartoon-based properties coming to any system. But if I trust your judgment on that, I really don't have anything to add, since I'm like, well, not the kind of thing I buy, but I am always surprised that people actually do seem to buy those games and enjoy them. I always have I feel like the trouble tends to come for those things with a lot of like different cooks in the kitchen, like managing the IP, managing like what the expectations for the game are, and you ultimately end up. Sometimes you get a good game out of it, you certainly do. And we could sit here and list examples, and then other times you get less good games, and it's hard for me to say, but I'll take it with a grain of salt and say I'm glad if they're courting the developers are getting these things lined up, like in the future. So,
and as far as movie tie-in games, they usually don't pan out well, but the Spider-Man games actually did pretty well. I don't want to say successful because I don't know how well they sold, but I meant people liked, at very least, the first 3 Spider-Man movie tie-in games, especially Spider-Man 2. They didn't like Spider-Man 3 as much. I thought it was kind of neat because you could swing with a Wii remote, but those panned out well, and then the Amazing series didn't do so great. But so there's at least chance for them to be good, even if they're tie-in related. I just hope that doesn't screw them up in some way, because if you've seen N64 and all of these canceled games, whether comic book related or not, and you're like, this would be so good, why didn't they go with it? They showed off a Superman game and it looked really cool. And just check out Unseen 64. There's so many cool games that got canceled, and you're like, why didn't you go with this? I hate you. You should have just spent the money regardless.
I have too many games to play to worry about the games I didn't play.
Yeah.
No, I do look at those sometimes. They are interesting, but I usually only notice the really headline-making ones when it's like Eternal Darkness sequel was in development, or things like that, where it really grabs you and you're like, that's a fake one, by the way. But like, I do find that interesting. I have looked at that site before.
You weren't supposed to say it was fake. It's a rumor. You heard it through a source. Come on.
I heard it through a source. My brain, sanity effect went off in my brain, yes.
So speaking of more third-party games, along with Activision, it looks like EA is trying to rekindle their quote-unquote unprecedented partnership. People should know what I'm referencing there. Basically, EA and Nintendo had quote-unquote an unprecedented partnership that lasted all for a year, and it was a bunch of ports that weren't really well done. But regardless, I wrote a joke here apparently. In this case, the only thing that's unprecedented is EA's arrogance and self-entitlement.
Wait,
so,
because that's just like saying the truth, man.
So this is all a rumor, of course. We don't know if it's real, but apparently they've talked and plan on having more meetings next month. I think that was supposed to be this month, maybe April, of some things EA wanted from Nintendo. So they wanted Nintendo to spend money during sport events to gain a larger sports audience. They wanted them to consider bundling sports games with the NX at launch, which who really cares about sports games bundled with a console? They come out every year, but regardless, they wanted them to be able to run at least some sports apps, which they think is why sports games are selling better on PS4, because people have sports apps. I don't know the legitimacy of that or not, but they also said EA is going to decide on how much they'll support the Wii or the NX after apparently these meetings in March. So they do sound damning, and of course it's easy to say, oh, EA, you're so full of yourself. Of course we believe you suck and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, you could just say, I forget how I was going to phrase that, but I don't even remember now. But this kind of reminds... Yeah. This kind of reminds me.
It seems like, okay, maybe it's a sales move, whatever. Like, I don't know. Sports games do sell rather well up there with Call of Duty type stuff, so who knows?
They do. I don't know if they really work well when they're bundled with consoles, because they have sold PS3s and I think 4s with sports games. I don't know if that really sells. At one point, that was the only like bundle you could buy, so it doesn't really help in that case.
Right.
It's inflated, but this kind of shady deal reminds me of the rumor back with the Wii U when apparently EA was pushing Nintendo to have their online exclusively run by EA and their Origin service, if anyone remembers that. So this kind of reminds me of that, if it's true. I don't know. I mean, it's easy to just make up a line and be like, yeah, we'll just say EA is garbage because everyone hates them and already thinks they're garbage and it'll sound realistic, but it may not be the case. But I don't know. I kind of don't put it past them, especially with something like Battlefront, where they're like, yeah, we have this new Battlefront game. It has like 1/10 of the content the previous game had like a decade ago. It's like, thanks. And we don't have space battles. It's like, it's called Star Wars, Wars Within the Stars, and you can't even live up to the title.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past EA to kind of push them on it. Especially because EA games probably don't sell as well on Nintendo consoles as the other ones.
Not even close. Not even close. Like, it's not even a competition. That's why for me this is another one of like the interesting, but I have no opinion on it, because it sounds like I'm not surprised that they're talking to each other. Where that would go, no idea, because the stakes are pretty low for EA with Nintendo lately, so it's hard to say.
Yeah. It also doesn't help when you put a half-assed port on their system either. But that's a story for another day. So the next rumor is that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to be an NX exclusive and funded by Nintendo. So Destructoid was told to take the article down, which could make it more legitimate, but it also could just be like Ubisoft saying, hey, this is a fake thing, like this isn't real, we don't want to get people's hopes excited for something that we're not doing. So that could, it could really, taking down an article could go either way, to be honest.
This is one of those rumors where I'm like, never played the first one. It's a lot like the Bayonetta thing. I don't know a lot about it. I don't know if you do, but I'm sort of like, well, we see how well that did for Bayonetta. Like, I'm glad it exists and I'm glad I own it, but I don't know that it's going to be the saving grace of the system. But at the same time, you've got to try these things. Exclusives do sell systems. So are you familiar with the original Beyond Good and Evil game?
So I did buy it for my PS3, but I didn't play that much of it. From what I've heard of everyone else, it's kind of like a Zelda game, pretty much a Zelda game. So yeah, I don't really know how else best to describe it, but
with your extra free time and lack of funding for buying tons of new games lately, I suggest you give us a full report on Beyond Good and Evil this week. So,
no,
let me. It must be good, and it seems to have a cult following. People really want the sequel. It's been for years. It's been rumored. So.
Well, I mean, they had like the tech demo a couple of years ago, which got people like excited. So this rumor comes from Gino, again, from one of the other articles we were talking about. And yeah, like you said, it could be the same situation as Bayonetta 2. It's not like it's a crazy franchise that if they got it exclusive, oh man, it would fix so many problems or whatever. It's just like, hey, this game is also in development hell that's no one's really paying attention to or paying for, and Nintendo's like, hey, no one else wants this, we'll just pick it up and get it for a good price or something. So I went into some of the details of the company, and unlike Ubisoft's other branches, Ubisoft Montpellier, which I don't know how to pronounce properly, it's the one Michel Ancel works for, the guy who made Rayman and did Rayman Origins and Legends. They're pretty, as far as their game library goes, they're pretty much free to do whatever the heck they want. It's not like they're contracted to make an Assassin's Creed game or a Splinter Cell or anything like that. They're pretty much the ones that get to do whatever they want. So they could be the one working on it next. And Michel Ancel said he wanted to work on it at one point, but there was problems, of course. And the last thing they made was what was it? I think I wrote it down here. It was something after Rayman Legends. Regardless, I think it was a couple of years ago. So they could be working on some... Oh, no, shoot. They did announce a new game for PS4 and I think Xbox One where... I forget what happens, but there's a giant naked snake lady in it for some reason. That's all I remember from it.
I don't know what game you're talking about, but it sounds hot.
So maybe they aren't actually working on it because they're working on something else. But who knows? They might have some other team working on it. It'd be cool to see, for sure. It'd be cool to see Nintendo pick up a couple of exclusives that no one else is really going for, but they have like a dedicated fan base that really wants them.
For me, this kind of thing would work best if, when they drop the NX, to impress people these days, you got to go so big, and it's a shame because like if they have 2 or 3 people, be like, neat, but what else you got? And if they could have like 10 exclusives, of reasonably notable names, out there come into their system at launch, that would be a big coup for them. But it's a shame because these days you got to just go so big to get people to turn their heads, because you never know what's going to stick and what's going to miss, with people on terms of these games. Because a lot of people might say, Beyond Good and Evil, big deal. Bayonetta, neat. I'm still not buying the system. Like, what do you got to do? You got to feel the pain of Nintendo. Like, they think, what do we got to do? Like to get you over here. But it's a tough one. Tough industry.
I think it'd be an interesting idea for them to go that route, whereas Microsoft and Sony are kind of fighting who gets first exclusivity on a game, who gets like the first DLC and whatever. They're kind of like thinking of it like a pack of wolves, and someone throws meat and they're like, I want it first, I got it, blah, 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 blah. And they're kind of fighting over that, and maybe Nintendo steps back and is like, well, no one's paying attention to these other games that look pretty interesting. Maybe we'll just scoop them up and they're just going to be our exclusives rather than exclusive for a time and whatnot. So, I mean, it's kind of a risk, of course, because you're going to have to pay more to be able to pay for the whole, development of the game and whatnot, but who knows, it could work. My idea before for the Wii U was that Nintendo picks up a bunch of Japanese developers or Japanese developed games and creates a niche that way versus fighting for the Western games, but they didn't really go that route either. They couldn't really get anyone, so who knows?
Right.
And there's one or two last things left. So there was another NX rumor from Gino for the third time. It seems like it's, from what I read, I think it's probably fake because it was copy pasted from another article or post from like a couple of months ago. But regardless, I think it brought up some interesting talking points. So it talked about that it's a handheld and or the hybrid system, and that the handheld would have a wireless HDMI dongle that you could plug into, any modern TV and play it on the TV, kind of thing, kind of like what Sony tried to do with PS Vita and PS TV and whatnot. Do you think if they made some sort of dongle thing that could revitalize or at least keep the handheld market floating along if this handheld console was separate from the main console? Like if they had the 4DS or something and it had a dongle, do you think that would help sell more units? Because I'm thinking some people might not buy a portable system because they're like, well, I don't really play it on the go, but it's like if you have this dongle, you can still play it on the TV and still looks good. I don't know.
My gut instinct is that Nintendo is definitely starting to get a little afraid of the future of mobile, given the marketplace for the iPhone and all that Android software games that are out there. People are playing with their kids and stuff, like just handing them an iPhone and never buying them a handheld system, because why would they do that? So any innovative solution or new idea like that, where the 4DS or the NX's portable component, that they can sell it to you as value added, so to speak, in industry speak, where you get more than just a standalone system, as my gut tells me is where they're going to go. Well, I mean, I'm still a believer that this is going to be a unified system, that it's going to be NX, and there are two halves to it, a portable and a base console, and somehow they sync together. And I'm not sure if you're basically saying, well, what about the possibility that the handheld system is actually less integrated, but it does sync up to some degree. I mean, either, 1.5 dozen type situation there for me. I say, well, as long as somehow they can sell this to you in a way that differentiates it from just a standalone gaming system and gives people more of a reason to buy it, I think is a smart move. Mm-hmm. So, because selling these standalone systems has been working for them, and it may continue to work. And I don't want to be a doom crier there, because 3DS has done rather well. Slowed down recently, but it's been a successful system overall. Will that continue when more and more people just have a smartphone for their primary handheld device and they don't really want to have a second device? That's really hard to say. The Nintendo phone, people, we need the Nintendo phone,
Yeah.
So, then I'll finally get a smartphone after all these years if that happens. But that's what's going to take, Nintendo. You heard it here. So.
Yeah, I think it is a neat concept, just to be able to be like, hey, I can plug my handheld into my TV now. Now it has more value to it because I can play it on like this nice big screen. But yeah, I think it's more likely they'll go the hybrid route, because I think the issue that they might start to realize is that they can't support two consoles at once. So just the Wii U doing poorly, like they can hardly support that themselves, because they only have so many studios and all these games take time to make. So they can't just be pumping out games all the time, which is why I think we got some not so great games at the end of last year, because they're like, well, we need to put something out. It doesn't matter if it's kind of half baked. We want something to sell to people. And I think mixing the mobile and console ecosystems makes more sense for a couple of reasons. So their handhelds have always done better than the consoles, so I think they're trying to get that audience to buy their consoles and pump up the sales of that. but also I think it would free up a lot of development time. So the problem is they might have a series like Mario Kart, and they're like, okay, well, we have the handheld, so we have to make Mario Kart 7 for the handheld, and now we got to make Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U. And it's like, well, now you're dividing yourself up on two platforms. If you had one platform that was connected, you would just make one Mario Kart, and then after that's done and maybe you do DLC, now you're free up to do, an entirely new game. So rather than having to develop two games one after another and waste more time, it's like you only have to develop one, and now you can have different games, more various games out faster without waiting all these years.
100%, which only speaks to like my prediction that I think if we get a unified console, the problem is going to be cost, and one solution they could face or find for that is that they could simply split the release of the system and get the handheld first. That sells well, and then at some point they start messaging to the consumers who bought it and the people who haven't yet bought it. It's like, but look, wait, there's more. You can connect it, and they can double down, like you said, in terms of their time. Their time becomes more valuable because the Mario game is developed in tandem for both systems. Same for the Zelda, same for the Pikmin. Some games eventually are going to be like a smaller experience on the small screen and a much more voluminous experience on the big screen. You charge different price tiers, for the people to get them. It's a lot of development hell for them to like get this working and hope that people buy it. But that's why I say they lead with the handheld and get it in your pocket and then make you want to upgrade to the fuller experience where it's like, well, the new Xenoblade is not a small handheld game, but in 3 months, Xenoblade NX comes out, and now all the adventuring you've done on your handheld is going to just be the first chapter in the full game, or whatever, something to that effect, or it's only part of the adventure that you're going to now pay another $30 and get the rest of it on the big system, on the big screen, and the two will meet, and work together and play nice, I think it would be awesome actually to have something like that happen, but it's hard to say.
That's actually kind of smart when you were saying like have that handheld first and console later. I figured that it's an ill-advised move, and I partially still think it is because the holidays is when people buy Christmas gifts and you spend more money there than after Christmas. So if you put the console after, you're less likely to get as many sales because basically you miss the Christmas market. But it does kind of make sense, like, oh, here's the I guess the lesser version, and then, oh, look, there's a better version, kind of like with Smash Bros. Because if you started off with the better version, it's like, here, you want the smaller, not as good visually, like lesser experience. It's like, who's going to double dip for that, right? Just for portability.
Exactly.
So there is some smarts behind that. But
exactly.
And then you brought up the other point of them being separate. That could quite be the case. So I remember there was a rumor a while ago saying that the portable and the console were going to link together, but the portable would still have its own library of games in a way. So what could happen? So what I feared was that we would get this weird non-traditional controller, and it would raise the price of the console, and that developers wouldn't want to make games for it, and blah 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 blah. But what could happen is you have the let's just call it the 3DS and Wii U for argument, or 3DS and NX for argument's sake. You have the 3DS, which sells separately, and you can still play the same games. But when you have the console, you do have like this console with a more traditional controller, and then if you want to take these games on the go, you can buy the portable instead and link them up in some way, rather than you buy the console and it's here's your touchscreen controller and it raises the price of the console and developers don't want to develop for it. It's still separate, but they're still able to link in some way. Whereas if you want that experience, you can have it. If you don't, then you don't have to buy it.
And this stuff is not even that much of rocket science anymore. I mean, the syncing idea is really common for all variety of technology these days, and it can be done in very sophisticated ways. In my day job, I've had a system that I worked in for many years where I was mobile with a full laptop, high-powered device where I'm working on the mobile version, so to speak, of a really sophisticated program.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time I would plug back into the network, the system in the background would be syncing all the data and like kind of putting it all together. It's completely possible to design systems like this. It's not even like the architecture for a concept like this isn't out there already for them to go that route. That's why I'm a big believer in it. Like that, unified system is going to be the big selling feature of this next Nintendo outing. That's going to be the thing. That's going to be the special thing about it. It's going to unify the two worlds and keep their handheld market viable, and hopefully prop up their console market a little bit with the crossover market, the crossover sales, that you don't have to buy it all at once. You can kind of get a piece here, get a piece there, and get pieces of the games even. Maybe games are sold in stages,
Oh,
just
gosh.
like
Don't give EA any more ideas. We'll sell this chapter for $10 and this chapter for $10.
I think that's where the market's going. I don't think Nintendo would be crazy to jump in there, only do it differently and do it better, where you, the example I already gave, I don't have to beat it to death, but you could be playing, because, they've been doing it in, like, test runs. Think about Mario 3D Land and 3D World. Those two games could have been the same game, released in a package where somehow they link together, that they wouldn't have to be this separated, universe, that it's like, sure, it's much smaller levels, much smaller scope, but it's effectively the same game, minus the costumes and things like that, and the size of the worlds. And you can develop these things to work together at the same time, because we've heard that they're rearranging their internal development teams so that it's not as separate anymore. So I just think all the writing's on the wall. That's where it's going.
Yeah.
So
the only problem I would see is space-wise, because games are getting so big now. At least PS4 games and whatnot can be up to 50 gigabytes, and that's kind of insane. And the problem with a handheld is, to have space that big, you'd have to have a big ass hard drive or some sort of writable memory in it. Discs aren't going to work, but they
wouldn't be doing it that way. The part that's on the portable would be almost effectively a separate game, but they would build it such that it's seamless with the main game that you play on the console. You wouldn't be downloading the whole game per se to your handheld. You would be playing the piece of it that's designed for the handheld. So I'm not saying they'd be the same game. It almost like the parts of the game would be more miniaturized version of the existing game. Different levels entirely. In fact, even different, like asymmetric gaming. That's part of the game is done on the handheld. But it's completely different than the main campaign. Just think of the Mario 3D World example. Like, those levels look like the levels from the Wii U version, but they are not the same levels. So something like that. You wouldn't be downloading both to both places. Maybe you would on the home console version. You would play, it would run both, but on the handheld you'd only be doing part of the adventure and therefore part of the files.
But wouldn't that defeat the purpose of having you end up having the same problem where you're still developing two separate games rather than just one?
Not if you sort of developed an let's just spitball here. Obviously,
like if one has different levels than the other, then you'd still be developing like two.
You would, but you would be developing the game. You wouldn't be setting up whole teams for development of games, and then breaking them apart and then saying, okay, now go make a handheld game that's completely separate. You would say, we're making a Mario game, and we're going to have a large staff here, and some of you are going to be devoted to this small screen part of the game. Some of you are going to be devoted to the large screen, and some of you guys are going to be working to like commingle the two worlds. And then so you kind of centralize all your resources. You centralize the development of the game into a single team. You centralize programming challenges, and you build if the NX, let's keep in mind, if the NX would be this hypothetical thing we're imagining, kind of a synced system with a small and a large screen, a portable and a home-based console, then you'd probably be developing an architecture for developing games like this, where it wouldn't be rewriting the wheel every single time you make a game like this. You'd say, okay, well, we have like the technology ready so that when we want to make a Pikmin, with the smaller level design plus the larger level design, we've got it, the OS set up. We've got the engine set up where we can do this without having to rethink it. We just simply assign people to the different types of the game. I don't know, spitballing here, but this would not. I would be almost sad to be right because it would be too predictable to me a little bit, like that's where they're going. But like you said, I think the strongest argument is that they need to get the development times down. And I think this would actually do it. I think it would be like, if they're putting their teams together to work on the same project, that saves a ton of time than saying, okay, 100 of you go work on the new Donkey Kong Country game for the big screen. 100 of you go work on the, the Fantasy Life project for the small screen. And they don't even have any relevance to each other. And they're just ends in of themselves, rather than being something that you can use in both directions once you've got the basic framework of the game laid out, basic idea of the game laid out. And, if this happens, we're probably going to see game costs go up, actually, in terms of to get the full experience. It won't be as bad as Smash Brothers buying it for both systems where, let's forget about DLC, but just to have it on 3DS and to have it on Wii U, every one of us spent well over $100.
Yeah.
Forget about controllers, forget about, DLC, forget about all that stuff. It won't be as bad as that by far. It'll be much better than that. But I could easily see I would not be shocked by a world where the console version remains around $50 and the 3DS, the portable version that you might buy first, or you might buy second, or you might buy at the same time, is around $30. Maybe they give you a discount if you buy both together as a package for games that launch with both parts together. They say, okay, well, you buy both together, it's going to be ringing at $69.99 for both parts of the game. But I could see game costs going up overall, and how they sell that's going to be the tricky part if this would come to fruition. But I mean, we're really out here in hyperspace theoretical made-up land right now, so maybe less said the better at this point. I feel like I've gone on a bit long about this, so.
All right, I just wanted to add 2 points. So while you were talking, I thought of one thing. They could make it so that, let's say 3D World, for example, you still have the same game on the handheld or the portable, but if you want to take it on the go, you just download, let's say, a section of the game. So it's like you download World 2 or whatever, and you can play the worlds in that while you're on the go, whereas when you're... you're limited to that section of the game, and then if you want to play more, you have to go back and download it. Mike has decided to join us basically at the end of the podcast.
Mike, take us out, baby.
All right, let's go. All right, guys. See you later. No, I don't know what to say. I'm thrown on the spotlight. I mean, even though it is the Troy Filibuster show and 3 other guys, so it's like.
And the host never shows up, apparently. So I'll just quickly finish off my point about, we were talking about the NX and the portable console mix and how games would work exactly because of file problems. So I was looking at the PS Vita because it's basically like a portable, well, I'm probably going to get chewed out for this, but it shows itself, or it labels itself basically as a portable PS3. And I looked up some of the file sizes for the games, and the biggest one I could find is 4 gigs, which isn't all that much if they gave you a big enough SD card for this portable system. So theoretically, they could make let's say the NX version might be 20 gigs or something, but then they make some changes for the portable one so that when you play it on there, it doesn't take up as much space because you have a smaller screen and they don't have to have the resolution is high and et cetera, that kind of thing. So there might be a way for them to have the same exact game.
Look at Sly 4, dude. Sly Cooper 4. It's the same exact game on Vita and PS3.
Yeah.
But it's obviously it's not the same file sizes, but it was kind of cool. That was the first game I ever did the cloud saving through, and it was insane because where I was left off in Sly Cooper 4, I could just pick up and play on my Vita, which is nuts, I'm thinking Nintendo NX wants to do something similar to that with all their games, so let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
And also one thing with the data, you were saying how 4 gigs isn't a lot, 5 gigs, The way I look at it is, you gotta look at it like in terms of like PC upgrades. Remember how big? Well, how big is the Nintendo 64 expansion pack? It's 8 megabytes, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, like now 8 megabytes. Like everyone's like, bro, what is that? Like nothing.
Yeah.
It's like a PS memory card. Like the first PlayStation was like insane to have like 2 megabytes. So 4 gigabytes, like say in 2 years from now, that's nothing, dude. Like you see people selling like 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes for like $200 now. So you got to look at it in like that kind of aspect, where as technology advances, data space also advances.
Yeah. Yeah, they could probably put some sort of internal memory on the portable to have enough space versus just giving you an SD card. Because I think SD cards are more expensive than discs, and obviously they can't use a disc on a handheld, so they might just have some sort of internal memory. Like,
what the heck am I hearing? Sorry, I gotta get in here and be like, I'm hearing a lot of wind, and now I hear the berserk robots like coming in here or something.
Oh yeah, well I'm like half outside my house, half inside. I was like, I gotta get on this phone call. I was like, shit, because I was going to drive in to do it, but I was like, nah, these guys are going to totally...
Still there?
Not are you hearing what I'm hearing?
After I saw those rumored fake Vitas. All right.
Sorry, what about fake Vitas?
What happened?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Oh, yeah, the picture with the Swedish guy with the fake Vitas. I took the photo. It looked like a Vita, the NX controller.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. I was like looking at that. I was like, that better not be like, that better not be the actual system. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The collective internet was like, please don't do this. Give us buttons for crap's sakes.
Like the way I saw it, man, it was like freaking. Hold on, I'm dying.
Mike is dying, so we will come back to him in a second.
Cool. What else you got?
The only other thing was Nintendo and Disney might be partnering to make movies, which they were talking about. Kimishima brought up like before that they were thinking of doing movies and anime and other merchandise and stuff. And we already know it's pretty much guaranteed that Wreck-It Ralph 2 is going to have Mario in it because they had Bowser in the first one, so clearly Nintendo didn't have a problem handing over their licenses. But I remember the director was saying, like, yeah, we wanted to have Mario in the first one, but we couldn't really have a place for him, so we passed out. But I said if we were going to have a sequel, that we'd definitely have him in there, so I think it's likely that'll happen. Mike, are you there?
Yes, I am alive.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way I saw it was like, I don't really understand how is Nintendo going to make this portable home console thing. Like, I just don't understand the concept behind it,
Magic. Well, it's pretty much the same as the Vita and the PS3. It's just, it would probably connect better.
Like, like in that kind of... But then the 3DS library is like, we all know it's superior versus the Wii U one, but at the same time, it's like, I kind of like the different deviation between each system and game. Like, I know I'm getting a handheld Mario, and I know I'm getting a 3D World Mario, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like one of us is getting shortchanged over here.
I don't know. We were talking about the idea of, there was a rumor a while ago that the portable would still be sold differently and could have its own separate library, but the NX and the portable could still connect. Like maybe the portable can get its own games, but Nintendo might make one Mario Kart and it works on both of them and it connects, like that kind of thing.
Okay, that would make sense. It's just like, I don't know, like, look at all the 3DS library games. Like, some of them just don't work as a handheld like console kind of game. Like, are they going to like, should they differentiate in price? Like, okay, this game is clearly more focused on this. Like, is there going to be like controller adapters for like the NX? Like, these are all dumb things I'm worried about because it's like the other rumor I heard was like Legend of Zelda Wii U, whatever. I'm just going to call it Legend of Zelda NX now because it's supposed to be like going Twilight Princess route and being for both Wii U and the NX. So I'm not too sure, like, what to think on it. Is this system's main thing? Like, it's not like the gamepad. Like, it sounds like what we thought the gamepad was gonna be like 5-6 years ago, where it's like every game is built through this. Yeah. Now it kind of seems like this special controller, like, it seems like that's all that's it for it, you know?
Yeah, it seems more like if you want to play this game on the go, you can use this portable device to do that.
Okay, alright. And then the other thing is, the only other Nintendo stuff I really read was the Miitomo and the Pokemon Go footage looking unimpressive. So I was just like, oh. But
Yeah.
Miitomo looks pretty cool. They said it's like Twitter meets OkCupid meets something else. And I'm like, huh, that's a pretty odd combination. And then, like, it seems like a more interactive Wii channel stuff. You remember, like, all the stuff that used to be on the Wii where it's like, oh, look, here's the news and the weather and answer random questions. Like, I feel like it's that meets, what was the game that came out with the island? That's it. Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a mix of both, but it's like, I want to see what they're going to do in it, because it kind of seems like a home avatar, like, not PS3 home, which is stupid and terrible, but it's like, I don't really see the point of Miitomo besides me checking how many Nintendo points I have so I can get a free game. Like, that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I just gotta say that after all this time, Mike, you never fail to surprise me, because you are the guy that will come in here, you will pull down your pants and take a gigantic dump on like the coolest looking game I've ever seen.
Really?
And then and then you see Miitomo and you are generous enough to say it looks cool, when I'm like, this looks like something for teenage girls, and I'm never going to touch it, like, ever in my life. And I love it. And you cannot be predicted, dude. You cannot be predicted.
Yeah, it's like, I'll be like, this shit sucks. I'll take 3, please. All right.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, if Nintendo develops it, I give it a shot, bro. That's it. That's the motto, all right?
Yeah, and I don't know. To me, Miitomo looks like a watered down version of Tomodachi Life.
Yeah, for the people who didn't want to spend $40. I mean, like me. But it's like, like, that's why I'm going to get a flash card for my 3DS and just get all my games illegally. I mean, that's it. And I'm done buying these 3DS games, son. Unless it's like...
This podcast sponsored by Nintendo.
Hey, I forgot, Matt, you forgot to mention we just got picked up by Nintendo, but oh, shit. All right. Yeah, my bad for coming late. I was having tacos and work and etc. So apologies all around, but don't worry, I'm about to beat some Metroid Prime 3 because I am like legitimately the file says 83%, and I know you don't need 100% to beat it. And I'm like, I skipped out 2 missile expansions, so I was like, F it, I don't want it. F it, I just want to beat this game. I am so close, I can almost taste it. All right.
Oh man, anytime on that game is like just torture for my favorite game, but hey, good for you, man. Good on. Scott, I actually at this point I'd probably rather play Prime 3 again than I would keep playing like the Twilight Princess that I'm stuck on, but
Okay, but I didn't get to hear. Where the hell are you stuck in Twilight Princess?
I'm not stuck. I'm bored so bad that I can't get the controller to like get in my hand. I'm like, this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to know these reasons right now. You're talking about number 3 Zorldo right now. I need to know. What are you, stuck as a wolf, or you just can't fish? All right, I need to know these things. All right?
We already covered it earlier, but I'm at the Zora Temple and I'm just bored. It's the worst enemy in the game is bored. Like I'm like, I can't finish this game. I can't even get going.
Okay, that's fair. You know what the thing is though? Like, with Zelda games, it's on and off. Like, I'll tell you the truth. Like, for me, like the Game Boy ones, like Link's Awakening, that one's supposed to be like ridiculously good. I swear, I played like 2 temples. I'm like, yo, this shit's whack. And I came back like 3 weeks later. I was like, yo, what was I smoking? This is fantastic. So it's like, you gotta like, sometimes you do gotta walk away. All right, like you do gotta like, it's like, you know what, I'm done. Like, hey man, I'm playing Prime 3. You wanna know the last time I played Prime 3? When it came out in 2007. So 7 years later, it hit me, and it still sucks. But you know what? I'm almost through it. All right, so. Gotcha. Like, sometimes you gotta give yourself a breather on it. You'll come back, like, shit either will make sense. I mean, my awe-inspiring story of the podcast, like usual, was, is this. So it's 3:22 a.m., and I go, I'm getting my ass kicked in Xenoblade. It's like the end of the game, like when you're at the city capital, or Agritha, or something like that. So I'm like, yo, this is stupid. I'm like, F this. Like, I can't win. So I take a shower, jam out some beats. Then I get some McDonald's, so I'm like, all right, it's like 4 a.m., and I'm like, why am I not asleep? I go, F it. I'm going to go play Xenoblade one more time, like the freaking fool I am. I fight the boss, who's got 2 parts, by the way. You kill him once, and he gets revived, and you have to fight him again. I destroy his ass. One shot. I'm like, where are you at? All right. So all you need to do sometimes is get, shower, get some McDonald's, and come back to it. And guess what? It's the easiest thing of all time.
Mike ate some super tacos tonight. I'm gonna just pause it. He got super tacos.
Get these super tacos. All right, like that. I might have had or you could get, and then boom, just sit back down, get the game, and you'll be like, yo, wow, I'm such an asshole. This is easy. Boom, you beat a game. That's it.
So, even though you just came on recently, we were kind of wrapping up, so I think this is where we should probably end it for this week. So,
super tacos is out.
Super tacos. All right. Hey, I'm stuck in this game. Don't worry, bro. Here's some super tacos. Appears out of nowhere. Oh shit.
I can't necessarily blame Mike dumping us for Taco Fiesta because tacos are awesome. So,
tacos are awesome. On that note, we agree. We finally agree on something. Tacos are awesome.
Hey, I agreed about the apple crumble thing. It's better than pie.
Yeah, that's true. Way to call that out. Right on, man.
But you guys can find me at the Mango Viking on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can find Eli at Nintendo Enthusiast, writing articles there. And Mike, where can people find you?
Hi guys, I'm George Fullbuster on Twitter and Twitch. Even though I don't really use Twitch anymore because blah 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 secret underground stuff I can't mention. But Gaming Night Live, find us at YouTube. Wait, no, other way around. YouTube, find us at Gaming Night Live. Ba-boom.
Unoclay, what about yourself?
Coolness. I'm still Unoclay 1. That's UNOCLAY 1 at my IGN, the hidden message board for only the coolest of the cool kids. And I am Unoclay on the Nintendo networks, and I'm got one friend space left. I got to delete some people. But if you're out there and you're a moderately common person to play some Nintendo games, hit me up with a message. I don't always mind having a few more people to play with. So
cool.
It'd be great to talk to you.
All right, so wherever you're listening, you can find us at Just Another Castle on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, and IGN. You can leave us questions and some comments or send them through all those social media pages. So see you next time, and leave gaming to Nintendo.